In the year 1838, there was a massacre that would fracture the colony's conscience. It happened at Myall Creek, a remote station in the New England region of New South Wales, where a group of 28 Aboriginal men, women, and children, members of the Wirrawarrai clan of the Kamilaroi Nation, were camped, trusting and unarmed. What followed was not a spontaneous outbreak of frontier violence, but a planned, deliberate slaughter by a party of stockmen and settlers who rode into that camp on the morning of June 10th and, over hours, murdered every person there. To understand the horror, you must know the pressure behind it: an expanding pastoral frontier, dispossession of land, constant conflict, and a culture that too often treated indigenous lives as expendable. But this was different. This was organized. Contemporary accounts and later testimonies describe the killers conspiring to clear the camp, to bury the bodies, and to hide the crime. They tried to erase their tracks, a conspiracy of silence meant to make the deaths disappear into the scrub. The crime could not fully be covered up. Word leaked out, and the local magistrate and the colony's Attorney General, John Hubert Plunkett, pushed for action. 2 trials followed. The first, marred by a juror's sympathy for the accused and by a colonial mentality that excused violence on the frontier, resulted in acquittal. But Plunkett was resolute. He brought fresh charges based on different victims, and in a legal fight that became a flashpoint for the colony, pressed to hold Europeans accountable for the murder of indigenous people. In December 1838, 7 of the men were found guilty and hanged. The first, and for many years the only, instance in which European settlers were executed for the massacre of Aboriginal people in Australia. The hangings took place on December 18th and sent shockwaves through a settlement divided. Some colonists praised the law. Many pastoralists and newspapers fulminated, calling the executions a betrayal of frontier solidarity. Indigenous communities, meanwhile, saw a rare, partial recognition of their humanity, but also the hollowness of legal redress in a system built upon their dispossession. The Myall Creek case exposed a conspiracy larger than the killing itself. It revealed an informal pact among settlers to hide atrocities, to normalize violence, and to prevent justice by intimidation and silence. It revealed an institutional reluctance to investigate crimes against Aboriginal people in a legal system that only reluctantly conceded equality before the law when pressed. The prosecutions forced the colony to publicly ask, whose lives did the law protect? The horror did not end with the hangings. The wounds, the buried bodies, the families torn apart, the land stained by violence remained. The massacre entered newspapers, court records, and private letters, but for decades, Myall Creek itself was largely left to memory and to local oral histories. It took generations for the broader Australian conscience to name the event for what it was: a calculated atrocity in the service of conquest. Today, Myall Creek is a place of memorial, where plaques and ceremonies try to reckon with what happened on that winter's day in 1838. The story resists easy closure. It asks us to look at the mechanisms, the conspiracies of men, the social agreements that permit brutality, the institutional failures that allow horror to be carried out and then muffled. The long shadow of Myall Creek is not only the memory of 28 lives taken, it is a record of how a society can be complicit in silence and in deed until a handful of determined voices insist that the law see and the public remember.
We gather here to honour the Wirrawarrai people lost on this land in 1838 in reconciliation.